In just 12 minutes, uncover 10 explosive takeaways from Julian Dorey's talk with Ian Carroll. From the CIA's mind control drug to Epstein's real role, Israel's secret wars, BlackRock's power, and the truth they hid during COVID. Takeaway 1. This harmless drug controls your mind. Ian Carroll starts by exposing a terrifying tool that few people know about, a real drug that can strip you of free will. It's called scopolamine, also known as devil's breath. On the surface, it looks like a harmless white powder made from seeds of a flower found in parts of South America. But in places like Colombia, there are hundreds of stories of people being robbed, manipulated, and even having their homes emptied while under the influence of this drug. Ian explains that it makes people so vulnerable to suggestion that they'll say yes to anything. Criminals have used it to convince people to hand over all their money, take strangers to their apartments, and even sign away property, without remembering any of it afterward. But here's where it gets darker. Ian links this drug to the CIA's MK-Ultra program, which was a real government project where agents tested mind-control drugs on people without their consent. He found a document that listed scopolamine under substances they tested, even though the report claimed no beneficial use found. That doesn't mean they stopped. Ian suggests it may still be used today in secret intelligence operations. Not in obvious ways, but behind the scenes, in situations where full control over a person's behavior is needed. For example, imagine an agent needing someone to hand over files or walk into a trap willingly. Now imagine that person drugged without even knowing it. That's the level of power this harmless substance holds. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2, intelligence agencies work from the shadows. Following that chilling drug story, Ian dives into the bigger machine behind it. Intelligence agencies like the CIA, Mossad, and others. He says we're taught to think of them as defenders of national security, but in reality, they often operate without rules and with no accountability. According to Ian, the CIA was created with help from Israel's Mossad, and over time, these agencies built a global network that operates through blackmail, lies, and influence. These aren't James Bond heroes. They're people paid to cover up secrets, bribe foreign leaders, and even run drug or weapons trafficking deals when needed. One of the core ideas Ian stresses is that these agencies were specifically designed to be able to deny everything. That's what plausible deniability means. They set up layers so that even if something awful is discovered, like an assassination or coup, they can say it wasn't them. For example, Ian shares how intelligence agencies use software like Promise to spy on other countries while pretending it was law enforcement tech. He also makes a point that some of the people working in these agencies don't even realize how dirty their work becomes until years later. By then, the damage is already done. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, Epstein wasn't just a predator. Jeffrey Epstein has become a household name for all the wrong reasons. But Ian Carroll says we're only seeing the surface. Yes, Epstein trafficked underage girls and died mysteriously in jail. But the bigger story is that he may have been working for intelligence agencies. Ian claims that Epstein was trained by an Israeli arms dealer who was known to use sex, money, and parties to blackmail powerful men. Epstein simply took that model and scaled it. He was not just having rich people over for wild parties. He was filming them with underage girls so he could control them later. That is the real story, and most people don't know it. This wasn't about sex, it was about leverage. With one video, Epstein could influence business deals, political decisions, and even foreign policy. Ian adds that the new wave of blackmail is becoming digital, using AI and surveillance to capture people's secrets without needing a bedroom trap. For example, Ian points out that we still don't know the names of powerful people linked to Epstein's flight logs and private island visits. Even after Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction, none of those elite men have been charged. That silence speaks volumes. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4. The war in Israel keeps elites in power. When it comes to Israel and Palestine, Ian admits he didn't want to speak out without doing research first. But once he started, he realized the full truth is far more disturbing than what we see in the news. This conflict is not just a religious or land issue. It's being used as a tool by intelligence agencies, corrupt politicians, and global power players to maintain control and keep people divided. War creates chaos, and chaos makes it easier to push secret agendas. Ian explains how countries like the United States, Israel, and others have long-standing intelligence deals that allow them to spy, bribe, and manipulate one another, all while pretending to be allies. He also talks about how powerful families and corporations benefit from long-term conflict. Every missile strike, every bombing, every wall build is a business deal. For example, tech companies selling surveillance equipment or arms manufacturers making billions from fresh orders during escalations. They all have a financial reason for the war to never end. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5, the elite profit from endless conflict. Ian connects the dots between war, profit, and control. He believes there's a reason why peace is never truly achieved in places like the Middle East. It's not profitable. People in power don't make money from calm borders. They make money when things are on fire. Ian also points out how elites use fear to justify increased surveillance, censorship, and military action. Once people are scared, they'll give up their rights. And elites know this. This isn't just about Israel. It's about how war is used across the world, from Ukraine to Syria to Afghanistan, to move money and power around without oversight. For example, defense contractors get huge government contracts during war, but no one asks where that money actually goes or who benefits in the end. And while the rich cash in, the poor are the ones who die. We're halfway through the video. Thanks for sticking with us. If you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up and share it in your WhatsApp groups. If you'd like to support us, please tap the thanks button below. It helps us keep making great content. Drop a comment and don't forget to hit subscribe for more. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 6. Your money funds the wrong people. When you put your money in the stock market or your retirement account, you might think you're investing in companies that grow the economy. But Ian reveals that most of that money is being funneled into massive firms like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, which control nearly every major corporation in America. These firms don't own these companies directly, but they manage the shares, and that gives them voting power. This means they control decisions at companies like Pfizer, Google, Nestle, and even your local water supplier. The CEOs of these companies are legally required to serve shareholders, not customers. So if a company can increase profits by cutting corners or putting something toxic in your food, it has to do that. Ian explains that this isn't illegal, it's expected. For example, Moderna made billions off vaccines, then used that money to do massive stock buybacks that benefited shareholders while delivering no long-term benefit to the public. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7, GameStop exposed their dirty secrets. Ian got his start in all of this by investing in GameStop during the Reddit-fueled stock frenzy. But what seemed like a meme movement actually pulled the curtain back on Wall Street's dirtiest tactics. Ian explains how hedge funds use dangerous tricks like naked short selling and leveraged swaps to crush companies, and got caught doing it. One of the biggest funds involved, Archegos, collapsed. That crash was so bad it eventually brought down Credit Suisse, one of the biggest banks in the world. The fallout didn't stop there. Credit Suisse's toxic assets were dumped onto UBS, another Swiss bank, which is still trying to clean up the mess. The system didn't break. It was working exactly as it was designed, to keep regular people poor and insiders rich. Ian says the GameStop saga wasn't a one-time joke. It was a warning about how corrupt and fragile the entire financial system really is. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. Not every truth teller is real. As Ian's videos went viral, some people began to accuse him of being controlled opposition, a fake truth teller secretly working for the system. Ian understands the suspicion. After all, many researchers who've been talking about corruption for years got banned or silenced, while he gained millions of views almost overnight. But he explains that timing played a big role. He started when people were desperate for answers after the pandemic and lockdowns. Plus, his early content wasn't censored because it focused on lighter topics like shampoo brands or grocery stores. Over time, as he began touching on deeper issues like the CIA or Epstein, his videos did start getting flagged and removed. Ian says the real threat to the system is someone who's authentic, learns in public, and can explain complex topics in a way normal people understand. That's what makes him dangerous. And that's why some people want to discredit him. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9, Ian Carroll's rise was a long journey. Ian didn't just show up online out of nowhere. His story includes dropping out of school due to illness, traveling to Guatemala, teaching Mayan children, and working odd jobs to survive. He learned to bartend, cook, and teach, and all those experiences helped him develop a unique voice. He started his content career in 2023 with a simple goal: to explain the world in a way that makes sense to regular people. His very first video, a breakdown of who owns the media, got tens of thousands of views despite being inaccurate. But the honesty and rawness of his delivery hit home. Ian built everything on curiosity, not credentials, and that's what makes his journey relatable. He shows that you don't need a fancy degree to start asking questions and challenging the system. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10, COVID was a test of our obedience. To close the conversation, Ian Carroll and Julian Dorey go deep into what they call the biggest psychological operation in modern history: COVID-19. According to them, this wasn't just a pandemic. It was a way to test how far people would go when controlled by fear. Ian believes that many of the restrictions, media campaigns, and even scientific claims were less about public safety and more about pushing the boundaries of what governments and corporations could get away with. He says the entire world became a laboratory, and we were the experiment. They talk about how things that made no sense were accepted without question, like being allowed to walk through a restaurant with a mask, but then taking it off once seated, or people being banned from going to the beach but encouraged to crowd into Walmart. Julian recalls how Dr. Fauci once said, "We may never shake hands again," and points out how that kind of messaging wasn't science. It was social engineering. The two also talk about the real damage that still isn't being counted. Small businesses shut down forever, people isolated for months, suicides, mental health problems, and huge government spending that made billionaires even richer. For example, companies like Amazon made record profits while small stores in every town were forced to close. Ian suggests that even if not every part of the pandemic was planned, some powerful people definitely saw an opportunity to reshape society in their favor. And they took it. The question he leaves us with is simple. What happens during the next crisis? Will we fall in line again? Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, hit the thanks button below. It really helps us keep going. If you enjoyed this summary, please leave a like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. To join discussion about this video, drop a comment below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below.